Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi, everybody. We're just talking about Debbie's surgery. So Debbie had surgery, but she's doing okay now.
I am here, and I'm alive.
And
I'm here and alive.
Thank goodness.
So I might just be here hanging out with you, but we'll see what happens.
But we need to continue sending her love and light and health and healing because she got, it was rough. It was not easy.
It was not like a normal, typical little gallbladder surgery.
Oh, goodness.
And I can't take pain medications.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah.
Goodness. Mm-hmm.
So I've been taking ibuprofen.
Oh, gosh.
But it's all good. I'm here. And
they will load up on that.
No, I just don't know what to say. I'm so sad that you were in any kind of discomfort and unpleasantness.
I was pretty shocked.
Yeah.
At the amount of pain and throwing up one can do. Anyway, so, but I can tell you right now, I had the backing of this community, this family, and all the prayers that came in, and I was crying all the time over the overwhelming love and support that came in from the family.
Oh, good.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. This is an awesome community. It just is amazing.
And it just makes me sad for those who don't have a community to reach out to for them, because this was awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and how was your weekend,
Andrea? Andrea, how was your weekend?
Mine was pretty simple compared to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds just terrible. And mine was okay too, comparatively. So we had a good weekend. So the weather's terrible here, but I'm all plugged in. So hopefully I won't get unplugged at any point. But anyway, hopefully it'll be a successful show. But we're here for Women Empowering Women, Ladies Night. And we talk to women past and present. We channel them and talk to them to bring them in and talk about their stories and how they've made history and all the wonderful things they've done. So we're about to embark on another adventure with another lady. And
this is Women's Month too. Did you guys know? Yeah. International Women's Month, right?
A whole month.
Whole month.
Whole month.
So, yeah.
We are going to have some fun tonight because I've been talking to this lady all day and she does like to talk. So we're going to have some fun with this one. We are going to take a trip to Hollywood. So we are going to talk to Marion Davies.
Oh.
She was a glamorous star, and she was famously a girlfriend, longtime lover and companion of William Randolph Hearst, and the newspaper tycoon, and grandfather or great grandfather to Patty Hearst, grandfather Patty Hearst. Her story is very, very interesting, ladies. So I will go right into it. So Marion Davies was born. Her birth name was Marion Cecilia Duras, January 3rd, 1897. And she was an American actress, a producer, a screenwriter, and a philanthropist. She was, in her young life, she went to Catholic school. She came from a very kind of a strict Catholic family. And she left school to begin a career as a chorus girl in Hollywood, because of course she did. As a teenager, she appeared on Broadway in several musicals. She could sing, she could dance, she could act, and she was kind of a comedian. And she soon became featured in the Ziegfeld Follies. And it was in around 1917. And at that time, she was 19 years old. She met in the audience, who would come week after week after week just to gaze at her beauty, the 53-year-old William Randolph Hearst newspaper tycoon. And she became his mistress. And he was, through the whole of his life, he was still married. He never divorced his wife. She was from a very strict religious background that she would refuse to give him a divorce. And so they just remained married, but they didn't live together, and they had an understanding kind of, and the wife was okay with it, but she didn't want to get a divorce. But I don't know how that's more okay, but I guess it was. So she was in kind of with starting her film career, and he had a agreement with the studios that if they took care of her and her career and gave her roles and parts and kept her busy, that he would write wonderful, amazing things about the studio and about their movies. And so it was kind of this symbiotic relationship that helped her career. And he founded not only newspapers, but he founded the Hearst newsreels, Cosmopolitan Pictures, and she actually wrote and produced her first film that she was in. So she was a smart lady. She was the #1 female box office star in Hollywood because of the popularity of a couple movies. One was When Knighthood Was in Flower, and these were silent films, and another one called Little Old New York. And they were among the biggest box office hits of that year. And then during the Jazz Age, he built what we now know as Hearst Castle, which is in San Simeon in California. And she became the hostess to these amazing, lavish, over-the-top Hollywood parties that they would have with champagne waterfalls and chocolate, bathing in chocolate, and just like completely just, they had a lot of more costume parties. And Hearst Castle, if you've never been there, it is unbelievable. And for the time, I'm sure it was 10 times more unbelievable. But as you go up this winding hill, because it sits on top of the hill and it has this beautiful view of the coast. And as you would go up, you'd see all these exotic zoo animals that they brought from Africa and from different places that, of course, people had never seen before. But they've got all these animals as you go up the hill. And then this place has, 2 ginormous swimming pools, one indoor, one outdoor. It is a castle. I've been 3 times and I've never seen the whole thing. I saw the guest houses, I saw the swimming pools and kind of the gardens and like the dining room. And that's all I've seen of Hearst Castle, even though I've gone 3 times. But this place was built, kind of piece by piece. And they would fly in all of this, these, Italian marble and Greek columns, and they'd fly all this stuff in, and then have to get it all up that hill and build the castle at the top of the hill. And during this time, she was, that's Randolph Hearst, that's them together, and then that's her at the time. So during that time, she was really just kind of mostly a hostess to all of these parties, and she loved it. She loved it. And today when she popped in, she was popping in and popping out. And she told me today, she says, please just punch to talk to us. So she says, please just punch. And she said that she loved hosting. It was one of the joys of her life. And she said that she loved to create a safe space for people to be themselves. A lot of them had a lot of secrets. Some were, gay or bisexual, or they had things that they didn't want people to know about them or their lifestyle. And she was very proud of the fact that they kept their secrets and they could just be themselves. They could be whoever they were when they were at the castle. And she also loved, and she said that she still goes today to do the same thing, because she said she loves to see people's reaction as they see the castle for the first time. She loves to see their eyes light up and when they see the view. And she said it just was so much fun to have people come up and just see just what they had created. And she said, I felt like it was kind of a work of art. It was more than a home. It was kind of something that she was very, very, very proud of, and very, and almost not in a braggadocious way, just in a way that, because she delighted in it as well, and delighted in the beauty of it, and really appreciated it very much. And she was a very, very, a very kind-hearted person, a very good person, and a very philanthropic person. She gave a lot of her money away later in her life, but she later in her life, they had a really great relationship. He was very, very protective of her. He loved her very, very much. She did have some affairs, but she loved him, and she appreciated how kind he was to her and how good he was to her. She told me today that she got a little bored sometimes because he was so much older, and he had he was kind of a dry personality, very businesslike. And she was very vivacious, and she knew these younger stars. Charlie Chaplin was one of them that she had an affair with. And she said that she was charmed by them because they had such personalities, and they had a great sense of humor, and she had a great sense of humor. So she kind of was taken in by their charm, basically. But she always loved William Randolph Hearst, and she was always very dedicated to him, and in fact took care of him till the day he died. He was with her. But as her career as the talkies came in, her career kind of started to fade, and they were both getting older. She did struggle with alcoholism, and she retired from the silver screen in 1937, and devoted herself to him as his health started to fail. A couple of things I wanted to tell you about her that kind of shows you the type of person she was, even though she had this really lavish, unbelievable lifestyle. She, at one point, he became $1.6 million in debt. And I think they said it was the equivalent of about $2 billion by today's standard. And she sold a bunch of her shares that he had given to her, and hawked her jewelry to get him out of financial, to not have him go into financial ruin. And because she did that, he was always so grateful that he left her everything. He left her the house, he left her all the shares in his companies, he left her everything. And she sold the castle to his family, for $1. She basically gave it to them. So, and they had to pay something. So she sold it to them for $1. So she gave it back to the family. So during her lifetime, Citizen Kane came out, the movie Citizen Kane, which is supposed to be kind of about Randolph Hearst. And it's a very unflattering picture of Davies. So for a long time, they thought it was her, but Orson Welles said it wasn't really. It was just a character that he developed, but it had that same. So he always felt bad about that because he knew her and knew how smart and funny and nice she was. So he always tried to undo that damage. But a lot of people still think that's her. But it basically was just a composite of every starlet kind of figure. And by the end of her life, she a little while after he died, she did remarry. The marriage was not a happy one. It lasted till her death, and 10 years later, so 1951 to 1961, she was married to Mr. Horace Brown. And they kind of became estranged. And in the end of her life, she just had a couple of nurses that took care of her, and she became, very reclusive. And but she was very, very philanthropic until the day she died. She really gave a lot of her money away. She did die of bone cancer of the jaw in 1961 at 64 years old. So not a terribly long life, really, for all the living she did, right? I mean, she really had an incredible life. I just wanted to show you a few pictures if you haven't been to Hearst Castle. How stunning and beautiful it is. that picture on the left upper, that is the swimming pool that's outside. It looks like a Greek bath, a Greek, the Greek bathhouses or the Greek bath, places. But, and then the left below is just the library. That's just the library. It's huge. And then that's the front of the castle on the right. But it's beautiful because it's by the coast and it's surrounded by palm trees, and it's beautiful. It's just something to behold if you and it is more like a castle really than it is like a home. But it's just pretty neat. A neat part of Hollywood history that's there in California. Anyway, so I had a couple of questions for her because there's a couple of kind of, I guess, scandals that happened that were kind of mysteries about her life. One was that she and Hearst were said to have a child at one point. She was known as her niece, but the niece said that was her mother. They kind of never said yes or no. They just kind of said, oh, rumors, whatever. But on her deathbed, the woman told her son, I think, that she was the daughter of, because there was always rumors, and she said she was their daughter, but she was raised by Marion's sister who had lost a child. They gave her to raise. And then the other mystery is about Thomas Ince, who was a producer, director, who died after a yacht party. The records say he died of a heart attack brought on by acute indigestion, but a lot of people on the boat said that Hearst shot him because he thought it was Charlie Chaplin, and he wanted to kill Charlie Chaplin because he had made a pass at Marion Davies and they were having this affair. So those two mysteries. But you also have to know how much power Hearst had. He owned 30 newspapers. He was the news, so he could print any story he wanted to. I mean, he really was. There isn't any equivalent really today at all. Even with people having, monopolies, there still isn't really an equivalent. But so that's another mystery I wanted to ask her about. But she's been chatting kind of all day, and she is lovely. I mean, she came in with a white long gown. It almost looked like it was made of pearls, and a champagne glass, like a champagne flute.
Yeah.
Very glamorous and just a really sweet, funny lady. So anyway, I would love to hear what you guys are picking up and what you guys have to say about this really fun woman and this interesting life she's had.
And a life we can't even imagine, I'm sure. I love the part that she sold the house back to the family for $1. That just speaks to so much integrity, and that she was not in it for money or possessions. That's really something. That's a powerful one. And it was interesting. I kept wondering if she had kids, and then you said about the daughter. So maybe there's something there that wants to come through.
And it's interesting to me too, Andrea, because when you were just telling her story, before you even said anything about that, she was bringing in a child that no one would have known about. Because I'm like, I see a pregnancy. What, I was asking her about it. So I think that's spot on about the daughter. Like, it's true.
Yeah.
Because that came in before you even said anything like that. She lived her life the way she wanted to. She chose, you know what I mean? Because I thought, okay, tell me the Hollywood drama. And she's like, no drama here. In regards to what we usually pick up on from some of these women who had to live through that time period. No, she chose her life. she chose, like, she's like, I was in charge of my choices and my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have chosen differently. And she said, in her mind, she had a beautiful life, and the normal ups and downs of living, but and being here on this planet, but not, she, like you said, that she showed me that even before you said it, Kim, as well, as far as the parties and the extravagance and this, she lived for that, and
Yes.
she fit right in with that. And the key piece to that, and she's so glad that you're bringing this piece out of in regards to who she is, because she was in service to others all the time. That was her whole life. It was in service to others around her. But no one really talks about that part of her.
Right.
But that's who she was. And she had the ability to do that. And she did. And
I think she was very empathetic as well. Empathy. She'd be a great friend, and I think she was trusted with people's secrets. As you said, they could come there and be what they wanted to be. I think she knew a lot about a lot of people and didn't say anything, right? She didn't use that as gossip or a weapon.
Right.
With the daughter, though, I keep getting pulled back to that. I feel like she gave up the child because she didn't want it would disrespect his wife and their family unit if they had an illegitimate child. Like it was like a selfless act to give up this daughter. I don't think she wanted to, but she did it for the right, like she did it in her mind for the right reasons. And also if her sister had lost a child, then
she's crying here with that.
Yeah.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. So wow, that's a commendable, and she really loved him. I mean, she really loved this guy.
I got that same feeling. It was, and it to me, it felt like, it did feel like a husband, because I thought, is this going to feel like a father-daughter kind of thing? But it really was like a husband. She respected him. That was the big word between them. I think they both really loved and respected each other.
Yes.
And she said today that she loved the way that he made her feel about herself, because he thought she was the most talented, the most beautiful, the most wonderful, the kindest, the best. He really made her feel so treasured. And she said, I wish everybody had the chance to be with someone who makes them feel so treasured. And I think that was one thing she just loved him for. I think you're absolutely right, Andrea. But you can feel that with her, that she
was
loved.
very, she totally came in with that whole feeling of being very cherished and loved, and I sense that too from her. I also am feeling she's saying that this Thomas episode, it looks like there was foul play against him, but it wasn't Hearst. It wasn't who we think. It was somebody else that brought in that.
Oh, interesting.
She's pointing the finger at someone else. She said it wasn't. It looks like Thomas was in trouble with lots of things. Maybe he did a gamble. I don't know if he got in there was some kind of, he was, I don't know if he was in debt to someone or in trouble like that. I'm not getting the whole.
I'm getting a yes with that on the pendulum.
Oh, interesting. Well, it was the jazz age. And, I think there was a lot of that kind of stuff and gangster stuff and that kind of thing.
It was a gangster move is what.
Yeah. And you guys in the family in the chat, if you guys have any questions for her, Tony Stokes wants to know if Hearst and she were twin flames or soulmates.
getting they'd been together in another life.
I got this. I got the same thing.
Yes, yes,
They've been
yes.
together a few times.
Yes, they are part of the same soul family that comes down and does that over and again.
Yeah, and they'll be together again. It's a very strong bond between the two of them.
She's showing me the lifetime before this one, that they were lovers. But they were forbidden to be together. They were forbidden lovers in that previous life. And it's interesting. I'm like, well, that's interesting because in this it was almost forbidden, but you made it work. You found a way to make it work. I wonder what
that chills with that, Debbie. That's exactly right.
I wonder what the next time's going to be like for them. Were they able to?
Yeah, I think maybe they might have worked it out this time.
Yeah.
And they would have been together. It wouldn't have mattered if he was rich or poor, or she was rich or poor, or famous or not famous. They were going to find each other this time or that time. And I love that she sold whatever she could to get him out of dire straits, which again just shows it was true love. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
right. Because if she was just a gold digger, as soon as he got into debt, she'd be like, "I'm out," you know.
Right.
But and then for him to turn around and leave her everything, you know, and you know, and then for her to go ahead and share it, because I mean, you think about some of the examples of wealthy people we have today, and the selfishness and the greed and the levels of greed, and it's never enough. And for her to turn around and a place she loved so much, because she really loved that place, and it had so many wonderful memories, to go ahead and give that away. It just shows, like you said, what a good heart she had.
And there was lots of talk behind her back. She knows that, but it didn't matter. They're her good friends. Their good friends were good friends. And anybody else talking, it just didn't matter. That you know when your love is so strong, and you are pure of heart with the love, that it doesn't matter what people say. If they mock them or made fun of them or thought she was just playing him, didn't matter.
Was she friends with Betty Davis? Or is that a different time period?
It's the time period. Yeah. And I know, I mean, they had like lists and lists of people that were there, but I'm sure she would be a person that would.
I think she was somewhat of a confidant with her.
Getting a yes with that.
Okay.
I think she knew a lot of the big shots of the day. And certainly
MK Karen M, get well. She's out of the hospital too. So I'm glad you're here tonight. I'm glad you're just hanging out.
Well, hang out with us.
Yeah. Everybody's
Randy, what did his family think of her? Good question. What did the Hearst family?
I get his kids or his whatever, not or whatever, not his wife. I don't even know if he had kids, but the people with other than his wife, I feel like they liked her. They actually really liked her. I feel like the wife kind of stuck her nose in the air a little bit with her. That's how she's putting it, kind of like a little bit of look down on her a little bit. But I feel like she didn't. There was just an understanding between them. I don't feel like she hated her or anything like that, or they were bitter or anything.
Yeah, she didn't like it. Didn't like the whole thing. Well, but what I'm getting is there was a respect for him to respect her, right? Respect the relationship, to respect him. But I feel like there's a son. I feel like he has a big son, or a son that had a lot of presence.
see, because I want to say kids, but
I
for
feel
some
like
reason, while we're talking about her,
While you're looking at, what I'm hearing here is that, so Hearst's wife, the power, we think, oh, that's interesting that they stayed married and she, wanted to just stay married. That was the only power she had over him, that he could not remarry. And so it wasn't like out of, this is whatever. It was more, this is one thing I get, and you can't get married again because I'm holding you to our marriage. I'm not divorcing you. And also in hopes that at some point when he passed, that she would receive everything because she was his wife. Right. And then when he passed, she didn't. And Marion got it, everything. So that was her only way of like empowerment over her situation. So I'm not poo-pooing her. I'm just telling the story
Right.
I'm hearing here. But in that situation, that I think that's pretty smart of her, that was her way of keeping her empowerment over what was happening that was out of her control. So
it looks like he had 4 sons.
okay.
And the daughter, and the alleged daughter. So Patricia was her name.
Tony said his son was Patty Hearst's father.
Okay.
Tony said, of course, Tony, he had to have kids. Patty Hearst was his.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because I was feeling like kids, and I'm like, wait, I don't know if he had kids. Yeah, I guess he did. But yeah, he yeah.
I feel
I feel like they liked her. They didn't.
Yeah, they didn't hate her. Again, they probably didn't like the situation so much. But
yeah, I'm sure it was not comfortable.
Hearing that money is a very interesting animal on its own, and if you don't want to be shut out of his money, then you go along with what he wants, what the father wants, right? So I think they feel like they were respectful to him about the relationship, even if they didn't like it. And part of it was also because they didn't want to be cast out or lose money.
And they did anyway, didn't they?
So money can motivate you to tolerate certain things, I guess.
So Tony says, how did Marion feel about Amanda Seyfried's portrayal of her in the movie Mank? She's saying like she played me real sweet, but I was more of a broad. I was more of kind of had a little bit tougher kind of way of talking and being, but she played her real sweet, she said.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie, but the card I got was pleasure. So perhaps they didn't articulate how much Marion loved her life. Like she wasn't a ditzy sidekick girlfriend. She really enjoyed her life. She made that life with him. Like she is covered in gold, we see. She made that life with him. She didn't jump when he spoke, right? It was a mutual relationship. It was, like you said earlier, respectful. And that she really enjoyed her time with him. And maybe that was not in the movie. I don't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
What a thing to live. And also that power. I think she may have kind of kept him in check about power, because imagine his ego, how it could go when you own everyone, because you own the papers, you own the news, you
own the narrative.
You own the narrative, and he could control Hollywood. If they were nice to her, he could be nice to them. So keeping him in check with that power.
She just said you could feel it when you could feel people's reaction to him when he walked into the room. He had a real presence about him, and you're right, that power. People were. She felt very, very protected by him and who he was, and nobody would mess with her, cross her. She really felt very protected with him. People really understood the kind of power he had. I think you're right about that, though, Andrea. I think she kept him, like you said, kept it in check. I think that's the right way to put it.
Kept him in line. If maybe he was going to be vengeful or something, she'd be like, whoa, like, you don't have to destroy that person or that company.
Right.
Because he could just do it like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
She considers Charlie Chaplin. When I asked her, Melody, about Charlie, she considers Charlie a good friend. Like, he's my friend. And as far as on the other side, she has seen him on they have seen each other, but I'm not sensing that he's in the same soul group, but she considered him a true friend here.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of those confidants.
Yeah.
Like Betty Davis.
I don't think she's come back yet. I don't feel like she's.
I don't either.
I didn't feel that either.
No.
I felt like with Charlie, I think you're right, Debbie, that I think that's exactly what I felt too, that they were good friends. She's also saying that she felt everybody knew kind of that Charlie Chaplin he loved the ladies. He's kind of a ladies' man. And so she's like, I knew he was a lot of talk, a lot of talk. So she never took him seriously that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. They were just really good friends. I think she got really a kick out of him. He was very charming, very super
funny,
smart. And I think she really, really liked him.
I'll tell you one thing she indulged in, and I could start to smell it when you were talking about her, is perfume. One thing she did love was an exquisite, decadent perfume. It's kind of like a signature of hers.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I don't feel like she was very frivolous with money, even though she's like swam in gold pools and whatever. But there's one thing she did like was a nice perfume, and she always smelled really good. That's what I was saying.
How interesting.
Yeah. She's doing one of those little poof. Yeah.
I keep seeing Cary Grant for some reason, and I kind of feel like
they
were.
Oh my gosh! I can't believe you said that.
Oh, why did you see him too?
Chills all over. Because she was just saying, and I had my gay guy best friend.
Okay.
And I'm like, who's that? Charlie's not. I didn't think Charlie. Who is that? And then you just said, and I'm like, oh, chills.
Yes, that's who it was. Because I feel like she really liked him, and they just really got on. I feel like he was there a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm getting chills with that. So yeah.
She had a lot of friends that were gay or bisexual or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they were, they felt okay around her, right? Like, because, in Hollywood back then, obviously people could be blacklisted for whatever reason or whatever. We know you weren't allowed to be this or that. And again, she's a really good friend. She'd be a great friend.
Yeah. No.
She didn't like the sort of the corrupt side of Hollywood. I was getting that vibe. She loved, like, she wanted to be an actress and all that stuff. But when the corruption started to creep in, maybe that was in the early talkie times. She could start to see where we know it went, and how actresses were treated. And things changed a lot once those certain heads of studios were put in place.
Right.
But she loves the pictures and loves acting and movies and, that whole genre. She just very much loves, but was disappointed to see the corruption that had started. Which is maybe why, I think that's maybe why she left it. I know a lot of actresses or actors didn't cross over from silent to talkies. Some did, but she might have kind of decided to leave because of things she was seeing.
And hearing.
And hearing, there you go. Yes.
Because she's showing me women crying on her shoulder, crying to her, and her trying to empower them.
So she was saying that this lifetime as Marion Davies was, a lot of it was about sharing, having a lot and yet still sharing, being sharing what you had and not being stingy and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she's saying that there's a lot of people that are supposed to be having lives like that now, and they're not. And she's saying like they're going to be very disappointed in the way they've handled their wealth. And she's saying too, it's a completely different kind of, and you think this anyway, but the way she's putting it is like it's completely different kinds of things you want to learn when you have a life where you're going to be wealthy, or wealth is a probability. It's a lot of different kinds of lessons, but they're similar to each other, because it's like, if you want to have these kind of lessons, well, then you'd be a wealthy person. And one of them is how to give and how to share. You. And she's saying you think that would be hard if you're very poor, but it's very hard when you become wealthy. Well, there is that impulse to just get more and more and more. So to fight that and to give when you get, it's a balance. She's like, it's a balancing act, but she's saying a lot of people are kind of, I don't say failing, but they're here to do that kind of thing too, and they're not doing it, and they're going to be very disappointed in themselves that they didn't do what they came here to do. If that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Her energy's very light. I like how sparkly it is, or light. Very joyful. I think she just wanted everyone to be happy. Everyone around her, even the maids, the gardeners. It was not beneath her to talk to them or make them laugh or make them feel good or compliment them. I feel like she was very gracious to everyone. And did she grow up poor? I feel like she didn't maybe have it all a lot when she grew up.
I don't think she was poor, but but she wasn't nothing like what she was. I don't think she was poor, but I think she, I think they were just kind of like a regular, milk. I think her dad was a judge or something like that. Oh. And then she went to, like I said, Catholic school. Mostly it was they were kind of strict. That was the main kind of thing. They didn't talk a lot about her family. And it's weird because she doesn't, it doesn't come up later either, except for her sister. And I don't feel like they were estranged or anything like that, but it just isn't something that comes up. And so maybe they didn't approve of her lifestyle really, if they were that religious,
Right.
But and it's so funny because when I found out she was Catholic, I was like, what, like, did you have like beliefs like the afterlife and things like that? And she said she thought, if there is an afterlife, I'll probably go to hell because I've done everything that my church said I shouldn't, but she's like, I just didn't worry about it. I just thought, well, if that's it, then that's it. But it's almost like it didn't bother her. She didn't give much thought. She kind of just, it was really about living for now, today, doing the right thing now, doing the right thing today. Not so much doing things for some kind of other reward or something. So that's what I got about her beliefs. Kind of a live for today kind of gal.
Yeah. Brandy is asking, was she in tune with her spirit guides while she was here? And I'm sensing that no. Obviously, her spirit team was there guiding her and doing things, but I don't sense that she made it a thing.
She wasn't practicing, let's say.
Practicing. She was very much an empath. And she's also telling me that she would get premonitions. And premonitions of things and warnings or premonitions of things. So she did have a little bit of that, and she acknowledged that she had that. But as far as she didn't have the language of spirit guides or knowing there was a spirit team guiding her.
Yeah.
But she did say she got premonitions, and she was very empathic.
Interesting. And I wonder too, is if as an empath in that world, as you get older, that is why maybe she drank more as she kind of got, because that, it numbs you, right? It kind of dulls the feels, the feeling.
If she didn't know how to manage it, then
yeah. And as he got sicker and older and that kind of thing, I do wonder if that's.
Yeah, she said, I would do it all again. I would do it all again.
Yep.
I don't see a lot of regret in her life, other than maybe the daughter. I feel like there's a little bit of, because that was coming in pretty strong for me. So
yeah,
I think she would have liked to have raised the daughter, but made a decision for the whole group.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big sacrifice for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like her message is like, live life to the fullest.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her, what do you want to, what advice do you have, or what do you want to tell us? And she said, live your life to the absolute fullest.
And live your truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she just found him so handsome. Like every time I see her look up at him, it's just like, she has those spectacular eyes. In that picture you had, her eyes are amazing. She just was like, head over heels, forget it. And maybe she had affairs, whatever. That didn't mean anything to her.
Yeah, no. I felt the same thing, Andrea, that if she did have affairs, it was kind of just to be with people kind of her own age sometimes. I don't feel like, they just offered something a little bit different, but it didn't take anything away from him or their relationship or anything like that. It was completely something else.
She's also saying here, as far as giving a message to the family here, you are not like anyone else, so stop trying to be. Stop trying to be. You're not like anyone else. Stop trying, and that will help you in the now, right? Living yourself. Living your truth.
That authenticity, right? That authentic, be your authentic.
That's true. When she said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm writing that down, because that is such a good message for us. We continually compare to everything on the outside, to everyone else, to people on commercials and magazines, to TV, to whoever at work. And it's like, stop. You are not like anyone else here on this planet. So stop trying to be. Because that just brings you angst. I love it. Thank you.
And why not be the sparkling, unique diamond that you are, right? Like,
exactly. And it's
so
so funny.
It would be boring.
Right. And it's so funny that you say sparkly, because I was, when I was talking to Adam this morning, I said she's so bubbly. She feels like just, and like you said, kind of light and kind of just playful, really sweet energy, and very happy, a happy energy, very happy energy.
She was an average girl or woman who found herself in an extraordinary life, but kept that core part of her.
Mm.
So she didn't become outrageous and a snob and all of these other things. She kept her core values, or that kind of thing, in this tremendous circumstance of opulence and wealth unparalleled, right, at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty amazing that she stayed so true and kind and compassionate. I love that. I love that for her. Good for her.
Marion, thank you.
And she does visit the castle still. She said she loves to see
great.
people see it for the first time and see them see that view, and she just gets such a kick out of it. So and when I was looking it up, I'm like, have they said it's haunted? But people have said they've seen her around. So
when you say that, Kim, she's showing me a spot, and I've never been there, but there's a spot that you can kind of go to the edge of something. And she used to go out there and stand and watch the sunsets. And she said, if you're there at sunset, look in that spot and you might be able to see her. She watches us sunsets.
You know where I think that might be is this area right in here. Because if you walk to the edge of the pool out there, you can see that beautiful view. And I think,
right over. Yeah. Okay.
It's like if you go over, on the other side of these pillars right here, you can look over and see, and that you can see the whole, it's beautiful. You can see the coast.
So so it'd be something like that. Is there a spot where she could go up on top of that on top of the pillar? Is that a walkway up there that you can get up to?
I don't know. It could be.
Could be.
Because that's almost very similar to what I was seeing. But anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a spot.
I do wonder if it's this kind of in this area out here, because it's beautiful.
And if you look, you would be able to see her there.
Oh, that's neat. Well,
and is it open to the public? Like people can walk through it?
It's a national park now. The family gave it it made it into like a national park and museum. So you can go and visit. And as you go up, you go in like these like trolley cars up that hill. And they play like 1920s music as you're going up. And they do have a Halloween thing where you dress up like 1920s and stuff, and you go up and you like have champagne and
that's her favorite night.
In the house. You can like do a little.
She just said that's her favorite.
That would be let's all go.
Let's go. I know, right?
She just said that is
really
her favorite.
Cool.
That is her favorite. She just said.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. I got goosebumps. Yeah.
So fun.
Oh, Carol Lee said she's been there at sunset.
Oh, nice.
So Carol Lee, you probably know the spot. I've never been there, so I have no idea. But she was showing me
it's amazing. Yeah, it's such a cool place. So yeah, if you haven't been and you get the opportunity to go, definitely do it, because it's just a neat environment, and all the people that were there. It's just such a fun Hollywood, museum-y kind of piece of history. Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, thank you, Marion Davies. What a fun lady.
What a pleasure to meet her.
It was definitely.
Well, and where are we next week, ladies?
Well, we're going to be on my channel next Monday.
Andrea's.
Yeah.
So Lilac Lanterns next week, guys.
For Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Come on over, join the show. We'll have
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and for all the questions and joining in on the discussion. We love that. And so blessings to you all.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.